People think I'm the man.
Dr. Drew Pinsky has been hosting reality shows and making other TV appearances since the early 2000s, but he's actually been a media personality for 40 years and has been involved in more than his fair share of shocking scandals.
I could not care less about that.
So why exactly has he faced so many serious accusations throughout the years? Let's get into the toxic side of Dr. Drew, because the truth about his problematic behavior is honestly insane. Dr. Drew has been hosting the reunion specials for the Teen Mom franchise since 2010, but even though he spends those episodes acting as the cast member's therapist, a lot of people have wondered if he's truly qualified to be taking on such a major role. It turns out that Dr. Drew really is a board-certified physician who specializes in addiction and internal medicine, but before he even graduated from medical school, he had already started pursuing another completely different career. In 1983, Dr. Drew began hosting Loveline, a nighttime radio show. Whenever listeners called in to talk about their health concerns or relationship issues, he would give them dating and medical advice. And what he did next was absolutely bizarre. Dr. Drew always knew that he wanted to be involved in pop culture, but he also wanted to apply his knowledge from the medical field. He started hosting Celebrity Rehab in 2008, which seemed like a great concept in theory. But in the 4 years that the show was on the air, Dr. Drew's reputation as a substance dependency specialist took a seriously dark turn. Not only was Celebrity Rehab criticized for being heavily edited to create dramatic entertainment, but Dr. Drew's true motives were also called into question. He was gaining fame and financially benefiting from the cast members participating in the show, which made his intentions seem extremely shady. According to the New York Times, several licensed psychologists believe that Dr. Drew's methods were more harmful than helpful for his celebrity clients. One of them even claimed that how the cast was talked to about their struggles was incredibly dangerous. Jeffrey Footy, a psychologist who specializes in substance use treatment, had very strong feelings about Dr. Drew's confrontational conversations with the show's cast members. He admitted that Dr. Drew's direct and often harsh way of approaching his clients probably made for good reality TV, but it also did an unbelievable amount of damage. Jeffrey revealed that when people who are struggling with substance use are approached in such an intense way, the majority of them don't follow through with the treatment. And sadly, that definitely seems to be the case for several of the Celebrity Rehab cast members. Unfortunately, at least 9 of Dr. Drew's celebrity clients have passed away due to substance-related issues. Not surprisingly, he was criticized for how many people either continued struggling or lost their lives after appearing on his show. But the reason why Dr. Drew ended the series was totally outrageous. In February 2013, country singer Mindy McCready, a former Celebrity Rehab cast member, tragically ended her own life. After her passing, the amount of backlash that Dr. Drew was facing quickly increased. Shortly after, he released a statement that was absolutely unreal. Dr. Drew apparently cared more about defending himself than he did about respecting Mindy's life and her loved ones. He said that treatment is an effective way to overcome substance dependency, and Mindy must not have committed to an outpatient program. Dr. Drew's cold comments about Mindy's passing were insanely out of line. It was obvious that he was mainly concerned about protecting his image and reputation, but what he said less than 3 months later was unbelievably disturbing. During an interview with radio personality Zach Sang, Dr. Drew announced that there wasn't going to be another season of Celebrity Rehab. At that point, 5 of his celebrity clients had lost their lives, and he claimed that it was ridiculous for anyone to blame him for their passings. Dr. Drew added that being criticized for what happened to his show's cast members was too stressful, so he decided to end the series altogether. He refused to take any accountability, and he sounded completely heartless when speaking about their untimely fates. Dr. Drew had seemed perfectly fine with exploiting his clients' struggles for his own gain. However, as soon as people started questioning him and his controversial methods, he wanted nothing to do with the show anymore. But that's not the only instance when his toxic behavior was exposed, not by a mile. In 2013, Dr. Drew was accused of accepting $275,000 from GlaxoSmithKline, a pharmaceutical company, to promote one of their antidepressants on Loveline. The company ended up facing federal legal action due to healthcare fraud and had to pay a settlement of $3 billion. But in Drew's eyes, he did absolutely nothing wrong. He defended the supportive statements he had made about the antidepressants, despite the fact those claims weren't approved by the FDA. But Dr. Drew also landed himself in hot water for a different endorsement that was seriously crazy. At around the same time, Dr. Drew was hit with the allegations that he was paid to promote a very dangerous weight loss surgery on his radio show. Sadly, 5 people had passed away due to the complications from the lap band operation. A lawyer who represented one of those patients told the Los Angeles Times that Dr. Drew needed to come clean to the public about why he had endorsed the procedure. They added that since Dr. Drew was both a popular media personality and a doctor, many people believed that the surgery he had been promoting was a safe weight loss option for them. When the publication asked Dr. Drew to speak about the issue, his response seemed like nothing more than a convenient excuse. He responded that he couldn't say anything, apparently due to a medical agreement regarding confidentiality. Interestingly, Dr. Drew wasn't concerned about confidentiality when he publicly diagnosed multiple celebrities who had never even been his patients. Earlier this year, he made a claim about Britney Spears that was honestly alarming. Dr. Drew revealed in the documentary TMZ Investigates Britney Spears: The Price of Freedom that Britney was suffering from a brain disorder. He also went on about how her mental illness had caused her to struggle throughout her life and said she would benefit from taking medications. It wasn't long before Britney's team announced that Dr. Drew had wrongly diagnosed Britney, but they also decided to file a formal complaint with the Medical Board of California because he had technically violated a seriously important rule. Dr. Drew had broken the Gold Water Rule, which falls under the American Psychiatric Association Code of Ethics. The rule states that it isn't ethical for psychiatrists to diagnose people they haven't treated, but it's also considered unethical for public figures to give their medical opinion about someone's health that's based purely on speculation. Because he had clearly broken that rule, Dr. Drew was at risk of losing his medical license. How he tried to defend himself was truly bizarre. Dr. Drew couldn't seem to understand why he was in trouble for wrongly diagnosing someone in the public eye. He actually argued that commentators are allowed to give their input on sports, weather, and politics, so medicine shouldn't be any different. He obviously hadn't learned his lesson from the unbelievable consequence he faced several years ago. In 2016, Dr. Drew came under fire after he made false medical statements about Hillary Clinton, who at the time was a presidential nominee. During a radio show, he said that he was worried about Hillary's health problems, which he claimed stemmed from a brain injury. But that wasn't all. Dr. Drew also questioned and criticized the medical care that Hillary was supposedly receiving. About a week later, CNN pulled the plug on his show, Dr. Drew on Call, which had been on the air for 6 years. Although the network didn't explain their decision to cancel the show, Dr. Drew basically exposed the real reason shortly after. Dr. Drew ended up apologizing to both his viewers and Hillary for going against CNN's editorial standards. That strongly implied he had lost his show over falsely diagnosing Hillary. But it also brought to light a very valid question that many Teen Mom viewers have been asking for years. After destroying so much of his credibility with his ridiculous allegations and scandals, how is Dr. Drew still hosting the franchise reunion special? He's faced numerous accusations that claim he enables certain cast members while also treating some of the moms unfairly. Dr. Drew has previously mentioned that he feels obligated to ask some of the cast members hard-hitting questions in order to get them to confront their issues. But even though he's happy to act as the reality show's therapist, is he really qualified to be counseling anyone on such serious and personal matters? A lot of viewers and some of the Teen Mom cast members have been growing increasingly tired of Dr. Drew's toxic advice. Over the years, he's encouraged several of the moms to make their relationships with their baby daddies work despite being treated poorly by them. Not only that, but his perspectives have been getting even more controversial lately. Over the last few years, Dr. Drew has been criticized for downplaying the severity of COVID-19 and for publicly making countless anti-vaccine comments. He's also been pushing way more of his conservative beliefs on his podcast in recent years. That's why he's considered by many people to be extremely hypocritical. In the past, Dr. Drew has thrown shade at some of the other popular TV doctors. He claimed that Dr. Phil knows how to run a show, but the widespread use of the term doctor is confusing to people. He added that anyone who listens to what the other doctors are saying compared to what he says, the professional difference between them will be obvious. But if Dr. Phil had continued renewing his psychology license, he might even be more qualified than Dr. Drew to give mental health advice. Not to mention, Dr. Drew still spends a lot of his time talking about the variety of supplements he's promoting. He previously failed to disclose that he was being paid to endorse different medical treatments and medications, so it's really not that crazy to think that he's most likely doing the exact same thing again. Although Dr. Drew has been involved in many scandals that have ruined his credibility and jeopardized his medical license, he's still giving plenty of advice to the cast of Teen Mom. But with each reunion special that he hosts, it seems like more and more viewers have been expressing their disappointment with his dangerous medical opinions and toxic behavior. It'll be interesting to see if MTV ever replaces him as a host, especially considering his most recent public controversies. But now that we've gotten into the dark side of Dr. Drew, I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on Dr. Drew repeatedly diagnosing people who have never been his patient, even after that cost him his show on CNN? Do you think he should still be allowed to host the Teen Mom reunion specials? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments below.